Hey everyone, hi, welcome or welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about a handful of books that I don't make the time to talk about, but that are fantastic. And I have a theme. Today it's time. Not necessarily time travel or anything like that, or time loops. It's the way that authors play with time in literature. And I'm excited to get into these books with you, especially since I've talked about these books on my channel from time to time. Oh my gosh! But I don't know. I haven't given them the airtime that they deserve, I suppose. So if you're new, know that I'm Shelly. I like to read. I like to think about what I read. I like to share those thoughts on the internet. If you're not yet subscribed, maybe consider doing so. Without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, my copy is given away, I think, was the first time I noticed, or it became this clear thing in my mind, that authors can play with time. I was reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and for the first third of the book, we have Scout and Jem, their father Atticus. Summers are passing, school years are passing, we're getting to know the neighborhood, the dynamics of the neighborhood, the neighbors who are quirky and odd, and time is moving rather rapidly. Then suddenly a trial happens and time slows way, way, way down. And I remember reading To Kill a Mockingbird and being struck by the fact that Harper Lee decided to just do this thing where everything was almost in slow motion. We're getting minute descriptions of Judge Taylor, I believe his name is, the way he holds the cigar in his mouth, and the courtroom, the way it's set up, people's gestures and motions and facial expressions, details that were definitely excluded in the earlier sections of the book. Suddenly, a day or two is now stretched out over 100 pages, whereas the previous 100 pages covered literal years. And it was so incredible to me. I was like, oh, I didn't realize, or maybe I did, but it wasn't sharp and coalesced in my mind, that basically authors are gods. It just depends on how well you can execute. So from then on, I noticed time in books. And when time is being used very unusually. One of my favorite quotes is from Sophocles, Oedipus at Colonus, the two words, time obliterates, which is so true. What can withstand the passage of time? Well, obviously the quote, time obliterates, has, but what else? And time is such an interesting and crucial factor in our lives and in the way that our world has grown old, and what does withstand time. I mean, it's such a thought-provoking quote. So I had to mention this. There's also, I think, the more usual, it's not unusual, but it does stand out when an author can fit their entire book over the course of a single day. I think that's really interesting. So one of the books is W. Somerset Maugham, and this is Up at the Villa. Nobody ever talks about this. I read this eons ago. I think in my very, very first wrap-up on YouTube, I talked about this book. So Mary Panton. Mary Panton, she is a single lady, and she has all these suitors, and one wild night turns into a bonanza of a time, and it really the whole book takes place over the course of a single night, which is one of the reasons why it stands out, but it's also just a wild romp and kind of a bizarrely fun read. I really enjoyed this, but I think its key feature is the fact that it takes place over the course of a single night. Then we also have the first half of this book takes place over the course of a single day, and then it kind of changes about halfway through. But in that way, time is really interesting in Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, which is about two queer lovers and their time together. And again, the first half is probably, to me, it's definitely more striking than the second half, partly because of how Baldwin plays with time. It's sort of leisurely and slow and methodical, taking you through that day, that evening. Fascinating book. And then in terms of taking place over the course of a single day, we also have Mrs. Dalloway, which is not often thought of. I mean, I guess it's thought of as taking place over the course of a single day. Clarissa Dalloway is planning a party, and it's post-pandemic for them, the Spanish flu, in the early 1900s, and society is now back on its feet. It's okay to have social gatherings again. And so Clarissa Dalloway is both excited to have this gathering, and we follow her and a myriad of other people, including a man who's struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is really interesting. We have a lot of social commentary. Anyways, so this is also known for its stream of consciousness style writing that Virginia Woolf was very much playing with, being inside people's heads, and that sort of tedious writing of moment by moment scenes that sometimes when you're in them really take every fiber of your concentration to get through. And then when something surprising happens, it really feels like in real time you're being surprised. It's one of the books that actually made me sort of jump when I read it, because something so shocking happens and you're so in the mind of the character that when the shock does happen, it really actually made me physically jump. But yeah, this play takes place over the course of a single day, which is one of its key features as well. And then we also have, similarly, another Virginia Woolf book. In this book, though, it's and actually when I was thinking about all the books that take place over the course of a single day and like how striking that is, and books that feature time, I was like, oh, I think that's a theme with Virginia Woolf's writing, is her obsession with time, or playing with it in some way that it stands out to the reader. And the reason why I chose To the Lighthouse is because we get this section where we have this family, and I mean, not a lot happens, right? Like sort of, it's more about, I guess, that social commentary and relational commentary. And, they're planning to go to the lighthouse. But we get this middle section, and we only understand that a bunch of time has passed through the descriptions that are being given. The way that the corners are now dusty, and I don't know, there's, like everything is sort of aged and now decrepit. But she doesn't tell you that a bunch of time has passed. As a reader, you have to figure that out. And when it sort of dawned on me, it was like, oh, wow. But it was almost like stepping into an old home that hadn't been lived in for a long time. And you know that by what you see, the sort of layer of dust and the way, the keptness of the house, and the sort of lifeless, maybe damp nature of your surroundings, which was so interesting. So I remember being not shocked, but just sort of in awe of like the way that she revealed time in her writing, To the Lighthouse. It was just amazing. It was an amazing moment, and well worth the read, as all these books are. I also love books that take place over the course of someone's entire life. There's something about that I really love. I think of John Boyne's The Heart's Invisible Furies. I'm a little hesitant to mention Boyne on my channel at all. I think that he's made some statements that are sort of rage-filled. I think it enrages people. I don't really like that attitude on my channel. And I don't know. Anyways, he's an author that I've been sort of struggling as to whether I even want to read from, because of the nature of sort of more current comments he's made. Anyways, so I like struggle to be like, oh, I don't know. I just struggle. Okay. Like I just struggle. But anyway, so John Boyne, but it feels weird also to not say anything at all. To just like be like, oh, and this is a great book. Though The Heart's Invisible Furies is a great book. We have Cyril, I think. Oh my gosh, I think so. I don't have the book in front of me. I read it on my Kindle. And we get this main character's like whole story, whole from life, from his birth, conception, from when he was conceived all the way through to his last breath. And I do love books that do that. And this one is very particular because it's about a man who's growing up. He's queer. He's in Ireland when being queer is against the law, and having big, enormous feelings for his best friend and the way his life definitely like unfolds. And so you get the very, very, origin of how he came to be in the world. And then, this large chunk of childhood. I love books that just definitely you follow the entire lifespan of a person. And The Heart's Invisible Furies was definitely a fun and just wonderful example of that. And then finally, and that is one of many examples, but that was like the one that came top of mind. Oh yeah, there's sort of like the opposite of A Single Day, and it's like it's like the entire lifespan of a single person. And I was thinking multi-generational family sagas, but for me that's something different. That prioritizes the story that you want to tell through family generations. But the lifespan of somebody, it's like you get literally when they started to when they ended. And I quite like that. I think there's something sort of poignant and cheeky about that. It makes me think that I should be reading more biographies. And then my final one would be My Antonia by Willa Cather. So in this, oh my gosh, so we have Antonia, and we have, I forget, our Jim Burden, who's our narrator. And Jim has a crush on Antonia. And then all this time passes. And we get Antonia and Jim sort of like, we get them in their youth, and then we get them much older. And the way that Jim, his feelings of nostalgia and love for Antonia was so precious and sweet. There are really, really the last, 40 pages of this book is what really just stands out in my mind as stunning, like absolutely stunning, because it plays with nostalgia in a way that was just gorgeous. It was gorgeous. It's like the love that you have for a person never fades. In a way it was that, but it was so much more. And so the way that she used like the whole sort of lifespan, not from birth to death necessarily, but like somebody that you continue to think about throughout your life, and the impact that has on you, and the way that you see them, and the way that the role that they play in your life was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. This is a really just lovely book. So, that was, it stands out as like, wow, like it makes me sort of scratch my head and be like, oh, that was really good. That was really thought-provoking. And, the way that we apply it to our own life, So anyway, so those are my examples of books I don't talk about enough, and that really have this unusual feature of time that has made me go, oh wow, that stands out as something thought-provoking, as something interesting. I really like that. Oh, I do want to say though, if you have books that you think remind you about time, that sort of does interesting things with time, not necessarily time travel, but like truncates time or sort of elongates time, or is thinking about nostalgia in a certain way, please let me know. I would love to hear like your recommendations about books that are doing something unusual with time. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you immensely, and I hope to see you all in my next one. Bye!